Hello and welcome to Connect. I'm your host, Randy Shabilo. On today's show, we'll have Deputy Chief Yvonne Raymer from the Saskatoon Fire Department, as well as author Jackie Fleury. As always, we'd like to connect with you. Follow us on Facebook at ConnectYXE, catch past interviews on YouTube, email us at connectyxe@gmail.com, or leave a message at 306-665-3796. The Saskatoon Fire Department has a massive mandate, and we have the Deputy Chief Yvonne Raymer here with us today, going to shed some light on what's been happening with the department the last little while and some things happening in the future. Thanks for coming down to the studio.
Well, thanks for having me.
I want to talk about what's been happening with the fire department and yourself. Maybe tell us how you got involved in the fire department and how long you've been there and what are you doing now?
Well, it's kind of funny. I kind of fell into the fire department. I actually wanted to be a lawyer and went to university. Then ended up in business college. I worked for the police for a year, and then I moved over to fire. Got offered a data entry job, mapping, entering fire inspections and mapping actually arson fires. And to say I was hooked was hardly it's the understatement. I then moved into, after spending 2 years in administration, moved over to dispatch for 10 years. Absolutely loved it, but I kept wondering about what these fire investigators at 3 a.m., what they're doing out there. And so I actually got invited to a fire scene one night when there was 2 of us in dispatch. And I thought, this is fascinating. How do I do this? So I took my fire inspection 1 and 2 and my fire investigator. And for 13 and a half years, I spent as a fire inspector investigator. And in that time, then I took some university. I thought, well, how do I challenge myself? How do I get better? Knowledge is always a good thing. The chief at the time and the assistant chief of training offered me an opportunity to take some university, so I did, and 4 years of university, and 5 years ago, here I am.
So let's talk about the past 5 years. We've seen some changes kind of emerging from the fire department. As you mentioned earlier, that it's kind of changing from reactive to some proactive initiatives. What's been happening?
Yeah, I think when we came out of COVID, we noticed there was a change. We had more unhoused individuals. We were focusing just on emergency response. But when we had to actually physically distance, even for the team that I oversaw with fire inspectors, investigators, realized we could do things a little bit differently. We could be more proactive. And we saw some benefits out of that proactiveness. So while they were physically distancing, like dealing with vacant boarded buildings and doing things just a little bit differently, we realized we can be a little more proactive and preventative, and we saw some outcomes, like some really good outcomes where we could actually focus on different areas of work that we hadn't before and approach things like the unhoused individuals. Do we have to close everything down? Is it about refocusing on rehousing and maintaining housing versus, closing them down, pushing towards a demolition, taking that step back, working with community? And so it made us all reflect, and it made me reflect, like how we approach our work, how do we look at community? Knowing that when we came out, community was kind of like, there's unhoused, there's a lot of challenges. And, I say in the past, we were looking through community from the lens of the windshield of our fire trucks. We were very much looking at our responses, being very proactive that way, making sure we were getting into districts within 4 minutes. But on the support side of our department, I think we could have done a better job in the past. And so part of it was, let's stand in community and let's actually stand with community, find out what community needs, look at our data that actually is telling us the story of what they need, and then try to develop some programming or some policy change that will actually help us be more proactive, be more effective, be more efficient. So, then we started looking at the fire service basically from the community's perspective, more than maybe through the windshield of a fire truck.
And it's not so much just coming in and I think I've used the expression that when all you have is a hammer, all your problems look like nails. So you're taking a different approach to the same problem, and you're seeing some changes with the results that you're getting.
Yeah, one thing we do have is we have a lot of authority and a lot of powers of our tools of enforcement. We use tools. Mm-hmm. It's using those tools differently. We don't need to is ticketing the appropriate measure in this instance? Is trying to maintain housing? Things like we used to close a house down because no water and sewer. Now we're asking, is there a way that we can actually basically put them on notice, have a property owner actually restore the water sewer that day? so that we aren't shutting down the house. We're actually getting the work done, and the bill is now being put on the tax roll. So it's actually going to the property owner. So it's just changing some of those processes. So instead of closing a house down, rehousing people who possibly could fall into homelessness, and then having to write orders where we'll have to wait for a 15-day appeal. They may appeal, or it may be 30 days. If we can actually, if it's a plumbing leak or something like just to get the toilet functioning, let's just get it done and let's just approach it differently. So we have a different process, notifying the owner, putting them on notice like, hey, this is something that can be fixed. You have till this time. Maybe it's till 4 p.m. today, or maybe it's 24 hours. And then we would put them on notice that if they don't do it, we'll call in a plumber, get it fixed, and then the bill gets assessed on their tax roll. So it's just those little nuances where we're looking at what is the best impact for everyone, and that would be in that moment. Let's fix the water sewer because we can. It's different than, let's say, a furnace that needs parts and it's going to be broken down for 30 days. Yeah, then we have no choice but to close it down. But can we rectify it? Can we work with the owner? If we can't, we do have tools of enforcement. We'll just utilize them a little bit differently in that instance.
All with that eye on the end result, and how you get there, I guess, is a different way of doing that. Are you seeing that the property maintenance end of things, is that kind of what's driving a lot of the, I'm going to say, some of the safety numbers? You're seeing fewer encampments, boarded up houses. Your numbers are kind of coming down in terms of the overall picture because of that?
The vacant boarded house was definitely because we prioritized that. We realized the impact to neighborhoods. It affects the amenity of the neighborhood. It affects the perception of safety, even though there may not be an issue. It's untidy, it's unsightly. So we prioritized that. We actually took a real focus on it, and we'll maintain that priority. I'd love to say that we're actually being reduced in encampments. We are not. SFD is not solving homelessness. But we are reporting, mapping, tracking data to show it is increasingly becoming an issue, and that it's hit all of our neighborhoods within our city last year. We continue to rise. We are on pace to actually be 300 more encampments this year than last year if the trend continues. But what we do with that data and that mapping is we'll share it with anyone. And if anybody, like Ministry of Social Services or Mental Health and Addictions, or even our CBOs, our community-based organizations, anybody wants that data they want to see, it's yours to have. Like the fire department's data is public, so we run it through actually our CAD system with dispatch, so we can actually create heat maps. So we know we have hotspot corridors, like we know where some of the neighborhoods are feeling the pressure of encampments and who's hitting the highest in those. But also we do see a path, and then we actually started information sharing with the police. So I will say police have been fabulous partners when it comes to certain things. Like we tracked and mapped. They did social disorder and disturbance and violence. We did overdoses, sharps, graffiti, property maintenance, our encampments. We did our fires. We did our property maintenance complaints. Things that would make a neighborhood a little more vulnerable, that maybe is impacting them in a way that's not positive. And what we found was we have the same hotspots, absolutely. And then we realized we're dealing with the same individuals, just in different roles. And so now we're trying to work together. How do we solution and be better together as a police and fire service, so that we're not creating redundancy, we're creating efficiencies, and how do we have two voices together telling the same story, saying, listen, this is the problems, here's the individuals, and hopefully somebody that has the powers to be can actually be a part of the solution and not part of the problem. It's one thing I do hear a lot of is, you hear from other levels of government, yes, the homelessness issue, it's terrible. I'm at a point now where it's like, just come to me with a solution. I don't want to hear the regurgitation of iteration, because I think the fire and police now, together, we've done everything that we can to support community, to advertise and advocate for what's happening in our communities. And we do know we have some very vulnerable communities, neighborhoods. Now I will say there are some neighborhoods in our city who are very tolerant and very sympathetic, and you see the best and sort of the worst of some of our population when it comes to dealing with some of our complex issues and challenges. But fire and police, especially from our perspective, fire, we'll step up and do everything we can, but we stay within our lane, within our role, responsibility, but we're doing it a little bit differently, more of a human rights-based approach than an enforcement approach. But there is a breakup moment with unhoused individuals too, where they do have to move along. But we'll offer supports and outreach the best we can, and then we do a soft handover to another organization because we're not social workers. We don't case manage. That's not what we do. But you know, the inspectors have taken a different approach. We're not used to enforcement being kind of softer. So you know, we have had some takeaways and some lessons learned in the last 5 years about how we can do our work differently and serve community, we hope, better.
I noticed one of the photos you had was the cadet program. That it's not really new, but it does look like it's busy.
The cadet program is actually pretty exciting. It's like one of the more fun things that happens in our department. It's actually ongoing right now. So it's a group of students that get picked from the school systems, usually grade 11, grade 12. I'm not sure, I can't remember. They go through actually skill sets that the firefighters do. They'll do some other skills like for fire prevention and communications. And it's about making them feel like you can attain this, like there is an opportunity here. Are you interested in it? And maybe go back to school and drum up some excitement about the fire service. But in the last, I don't even know how many years now, what we did in the last 2 or 3 is actually realize the cadets, young, ambitious, hardworking. So as they went through their cadet program, it was almost like a recruitment. And so what we did was we decided we'll hire 4. And we'll have them help us with encampments. We'll have them help us with maintenance and some of that other stuff through the summer. Because we get busy in the summer and we usually get backlogged in a lot of things. So, you know, we almost treat it like a recruitment. They have to apply and they have to give a cover letter and a resume, and then they can actually try it out. And we let them go into different aspects. You know, last year they were doing water distribution with EMO. So they were actually helping them distribute water. So, you know, they got the value of what the fire department is to a community. They helped clean up encampments with our inspectors. They went on a needle sweep, did a community cleanups. So they're just, and they got to see what the firefighters do. And they went into maintenance and they helped them basically reorganize the maintenance shop and organize stuff and sort of see like the invoices and the processing, and that there's a lot of parts and service that comes with, you know, fire engines and with fleet. So it's just been an exciting program. So when it wraps up here in June, our plan is to have 4 more again and help us with graffiti maybe this year and do the encampments and cleanups. And already they're planning to do the needle cleanups with them.
No shortage of work, and I commend you and the organization for pivoting and doing everything that's necessary to keep the community safe and looking at it through a different lens. Well done. If people want to reach out to you, what would be the best way of doing that?
Yeah, they can always email us. It's a nice, generic, easy email. It's fireinspections@saskatoon.ca.
Appreciate your time. Thank you for all you're doing for the city and the area. And congratulations on a number of years of service to the department.
Thank you.
Stay with us, folks. We'll be right back.